This is a video on the Shannon Briggs versus David Haye fight. There's two major opinions about this fight. One of them is David Haye's picking an old and relatively easy opponent right now, and he's just going to be able to blast him out there within one or two rounds, just like his two previous opponents. Shannon Briggs is just too old, too slow. David Haye's too powerful now, and will just blast out Shannon Briggs very easily, and it's a waste of a time fight. Then there's a smaller group of people that have got really right behind Shannon Briggs now. They believe that the top boxers like Deontay Wilder or like Wladimir Klitschko have all been ducking Shannon, and it's all because they believe that he's very dangerous. And if he couldn't be a unified champion, he could at least be a belt holder again. So he has got quite a small following, but a very strong following, thinking that Shannon Briggs has still really actually got it, and he's more determined now. And he's got this one opportunity from David Haye. He's going to take it to David Haye, and he's actually going to be the one that stops David Haye in the early rounds. Now, I really like Shannon Briggs. I think he's a good character. He's funny. I think he does it in a tongue-in-cheek way. I would have preferred if Shannon Briggs built himself up more, went through top 50 guys, took on some top 20 guys, then got himself into the mix. I think he'd have a lot better chance. But there is a false belief that Shannon Briggs has just been fighting complete bums on his comeback. It's not quite true in a sense. If you're thinking that all Shannon Briggs' opponents, it's just like his previous opponent there was ranked 230th in the world, they haven't all been quite that bad. He has fought some decent top 100 guys. One of them's Rafael Love. Everyone's going to know Rafael Love quite well. Went a distance with Charles Martin. And also the Anthony Joshua fight. Anthony Joshua fought Rafael Love as well. Dealt with him very easily, knocked him out in the second round. Now, Shannon Briggs didn't do quite as well as Anthony Joshua, but I think he done just as well or better than Charles Martin. It was a one-sided fight when Shannon Briggs fought Charles Martin. I think the scorecards were 120 to 113. So that doesn't just show you won every round, that shows dominance. He's getting 10-8 rounds. So it shows that he's at a far higher level than Rafael Love, but Rafael Love's just inside the top 100. So that it proves that you're going to get a decent fight at the very least. There's also one other boxer that people forget about or just don't know about. There's a Zoltan Petrine. He's ranked 63 in the world. This is another top 100 fighter he's fought. He's not got a very good or impressive record at all. It's 52 wins, 22 losses. But he's obviously done something recently to get himself to that kind of ranking. So he's improved. It is worth noting that Zoltan is actually 48 himself. He's actually significantly older than Shannon Briggs. But Shannon Briggs beat him more impressively than anybody previously. That includes Danny Williams. When Danny Williams was still fighting well, Danny Williams stopped him in the third round. And Johan Duhaupas stopped him in the fifth round. Shannon Briggs knocked him out very easily in the first round. Just beat him up like a rag doll. So again, that kind of proves that Shannon Briggs is at a decent level at the very least. It proves he still can be dangerous. And also with the Rafael Love fight, it does prove that he can still go 12 rounds. But during that fight, he did only look dangerous at the start of it. His work rate did fall dramatically later on. And if that was against David Haye, assuming David Haye doesn't do anything stupid at the start like trying to take Shannon right out of there, we'd be able to wear him down and then knock him out in the later rounds. Now, for all the people that think that David Haye is just going to blast out Shannon Briggs quite easily, the thing you've always got to remember with Shannon Briggs, he's only been stopped once during his career, and that was against Lennox Lewis. Lennox Lewis stopped him in the fifth round. But the thing I always like to point out with that loss Oh, sorry. Yeah, as Shannon Briggs was inexperienced at the time and was significantly lighter. Darrell Wilson also stopped Shannon Briggs in the third round. But again, just like I say, Shannon Briggs was significantly lighter and less experienced at the time. Now he's built up a lot more weight, he's more muscular, he's more massive, he's more experienced, even though he is slower. He can take a punch far better. And what really, I mean, he's been against big punchers throughout his career, but the one that really shows this is the Vitaly Klitschko fight. Now, the one thing I've got to point out, of course, is after Vitaly Klitschko came back from 3.5 year layoff, plagued with injuries, he didn't have quite have the punching power he did before. He wasn't a big hitter like he was previously. But still, standing up to Vitaly Klitschko, who was 251 pounds, was just given a one-sided bashing for that whole fight. I mean, the fight was scored 120, 105. I mean, that's how dominant Vitaly was in that fight, and that's how much of a beating Shannon Briggs took in that fight. It does show that Shannon Briggs does have a lot of punch resistance. But the thing you've got to take into consideration, of course, is David Haye now punches significantly harder than what Vitaly Klitschko punched at when Vitaly Klitschko took Shannon Briggs the 12 rounds and gave him a one-sided bashing. So I think all the people out there are thinking Shannon Briggs is going to get taken out in a couple of rounds. I can't really see that happening unless the referee jumps in because he's just laying against the ropes taking a beating. I don't think he's going to go down against David Haye in the first few rounds. I do think Shannon Briggs can last a significant amount of rounds in this fight. And also, I'd like to say, with David Haye coming back and having so much confidence in his punching power, maybe taking his last two opponents out there so easily, he might be a bit overconfident, try and take Shannon Briggs out really early, end up punching himself out, as in just getting exhausted, and then being vulnerable to Shannon Briggs' power shots, and being unable to get out the road of what Shannon Briggs throws back at him. And it's not the first time David Haye has actually punched himself out in a fight. The first fight, well, the first fight he lost, he punched himself out. He couldn't defend himself. He couldn't get away from the boxer. The guy could just take a punch, and Shannon and David Haye just got knocked out of there. I think it was the 5th or 6th round. He also, to a lesser extent, of course, didn't quite punch himself out, but he had the same kind of problem with Derek Chisora. He tried to take Derek Chisora out of there, and he looked quite gassed in that 5th round. Which takes me on to the second thing, is can David Haye knock out an opponent that's just that big and heavy and has that kind of punch resistance as Shannon Briggs? And the answer is yes, because when David Haye fought Derek Chisora had never been stopped previously, and David Haye's actually knocked him out quicker than anybody else. And Derek Chisora could take a punch. He's a big heavy guy like Shannon Briggs that could take a punch. And David Haye, even though I would say he was 210 pounds back then, I believe he's punching harder now. Not just because he's knocked out these guys so easily, but when you have the level of opponents he's been knocking out right now, when he fought that level of opponents in his previous career, he was taking a far longer time to do it. He wasn't as explosive. He didn't punch as hard as he did now. So I think yes, David Haye can knock out Shannon Briggs. I think he's one of the, I wouldn't say few people, but he's one of the people that's got the power to actually do it. But I can't see him just blast them out, Shannon Briggs, in a few rounds. Shannon Briggs does have power. Now, am I saying Shannon Briggs has got no hope in this fight? No, not exactly. Just like I say, I think if David Haye does something stupid, tries to take Shannon Briggs out of there too early, if just throws all his arsenal at him, punches himself out, yeah, I believe Shannon Briggs can maybe capitalise on that and then knock out David Haye when he's vulnerable. But apart from that, if David Haye's smart, and I think he will be, I can't see that happening. Because if you look at Shannon Briggs now, he is significantly slower. I think one of the main reasons he goes for the body shots now instead of aiming for the head so much is it's a bigger target and he doesn't have the speed and the reflexes there to go to the head as well as he did previously. He prefers to wear them down. So David Haye, yes, people are arguing, is he as fast before? Does he have the same kind of reflexes as before? And it doesn't matter because he's already displayed the fact that he's faster than Shannon Briggs. He's a lot faster than Shannon Briggs. He's got better mobility than Shannon Briggs. It may be arguable if he punches harder than Shannon Briggs. The main advantage Shannon Briggs has over David Haye is just punch resistance. He can take a punch far better. So almost everything's in David Haye's favour in this fight. If he can just fight smart, he can beat Shannon Briggs. Now, what round I think he's going to knock out Shannon Briggs? Just like I say, I don't think it's going to be early. I think David Haye's going to want to... Yeah, I do think he's going to want to knock him out early, but I think he's going to take a number of rounds to do, and I think he's going to knock him out in the 5th round. So that's my prediction for the fight.